Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Tales of Herding Gods based on novel. So let's start. Murder. Murder. A steward hurriedly ran in to report to Grand Chancellor Ji Linwan while shouting, "This is bad. Imperial Academician Qin Mu has committed murder again." Ji Linwan was drinking tea and seemed unconcerned. He asked with a smile, "What's there to be shocked about? He's the heavenly devil cult master, so is there a need for you to be so panicky just because he committed murder? It would be weird if he didn't commit murder. Who did he kill now?" The steward didn't even bother to gasp for air as he said, "He killed 2 envoys from barbarian Di Empire." Piak. The teacup in Ji Linwan's hand shattered into pieces and his complexion changed drastically. He cried out, "The envoys from barbarian Di Empire? 2 of them at that? That's not right. I had already treated him to a meal, so why is he still causing trouble for me?" He immediately stood up, thinking to rush out of the hall, but then he stopped in his track and paced to and fro while muttering to himself, "He is the heavenly devil cult master, the head of the #1 sacred ground of the devil path. If I ask him for an explanation, I'll just be cutting my life short. It's still better to report this incident to His Highness." Chancellor Ba Shan stood not far away and observed Pang Gongo and Qin Mu. When he saw what was happening, his head started to ache and he felt it becoming heavy. "Junior brother, I've only wanted you to test Pang Gongo, so why did you have to kill the envoys of barbarian Di Empire?" The envoys had been sent by the Khan of barbarian Di Empire, with Pang Gongo as the leader. There were over 10 of them, and Qin Mu had just killed 2 of them in Imperial College. This incident would definitely not be settled peacefully. Khan Rwandi of barbarian Di Empire was considered a hero of the prairie, a person with great talent and bold vision. He had annexed the countries of the other Khans and formed a huge empire in the prairie to contend against Eternal Peace Empire. He even learned the culture of Eternal Peace Empire and drew the good aspects of Eternal Peace Empire to develop barbarian Di Empire. He reformed the internal affairs of his country and even created an imperial court that was similar to that of Eternal Peace Empire. He also built schools everywhere. Looking at the situation at hand, he had not yet united the entire prairie, which was why he couldn't contend against Eternal Peace Empire at full force. However, when he united the entire prairie, he would direct all of his power to deal with Eternal Peace. Since Eternal Peace Empire had been through 2 disasters, the power of the empire had been severely weakened, so the main motive behind Khan Rwandi dispatching an envoy was to see how weak Eternal Peace Empire had gotten, besides having his people study there and learn. He was like a male eagle above the prairie, ready to invade the east anytime. As long as he had the chance, he would lead the Iron Cavalry of the prairie to plunder and whip the Central Plains. However, it was evident that Qin Mu didn't care about these, for he killed the 2 envoys without any worries. This action could very well incite a war between the 2 empires. Since the effects of the disasters had yet to fade and Eternal Peace Empire was still in a weak state, if Khan Rwandi took advantage of this chance to send his army forward, the empire would probably be in great danger. Chancellor Ba Shan was slightly regretful that he had gotten Qin Mu to test out Pang Gongo. It was then evident to him that this junior brother who came from great ruins was lawless and daring. After killing the envoys, he could just pat his buttocks and return back to great ruins, leaving behind a terrible mess. Now that the Crown Prince is supervising the empire, let's see how Crown Prince Yushu will handle this. Chancellor Ba Shan couldn't help feeling a headache for Ling Yushu. Ever since this young man had become the Crown Prince, he had quite a smooth journey in supervising the empire. He even wrote a decree of his crimes to seek forgiveness from heaven at the Temple of Heaven. No matter if it was reclaiming the lands or continuing with the disaster relief, he had done very well and received the support of many people. However, this would be his first difficult problem in supervising the empire. Pang Gongo's gaze landed on Qin Mu's body, but there was little emotion in his gaze. No matter what Qin Mu did or how he agitated him, his mind didn't waver. Pang Gongo said indifferently, "The cult master of Heavenly Devil Cult naturally wouldn't have bad abilities. Maybe there's some misunderstanding between us. If Cult Master doesn't mind, I can host a banquet at Jade Fragrance Floor to apologize to Cult Master." What does Cult Master Qin think about this? Great. Qin Mu was very free and easy, smiling. Your two retainers were really daring, actually coming to make a move on me. You as the owner should indeed host a banquet to apologize. The corners of Pang Gongo's eyes twitched as he turned to leave. Qin Mu's gaze, filled with murderous intent, landed on his back. However, Pang Gongo walked steadily and didn't seem to notice anything or feel uncomfortable. Only his footsteps were slightly messed up, so it seemed like he was walking with a hobble. This fellow, Qin Mu took in a deep breath and deeply felt that Pang Gongo was a thorny and terrifying problem. He had challenged him time and time again and even slapped his face right in front of everyone by insulting and killing his retainers. However, this person still remained emotionless. Even when Qin Mu's murderous intent was directed at him, he was still able to walk away steadily and only had a slight hobble. He was truly a terrifying person. Qin Mu didn't dare to say it to others, but if it were strong practitioners like Daozi or Fozi, they wouldn't have dared to take a step. With his gaze filled with murderous intent pointed at their backs, Fozi and Daozi wouldn't dare to even make a single step as moving would reveal their flaw. If those that had higher cultivation and attainments than Daozi and Fozi were targeted by Qin Mu like this, they would either hobble or move back slowly while looking at him. As to why they would hobble, it would be a way of moving the body to avoid any possible attacks. They couldn't walk in a straight line, and would have to move their bodies up and down. This was why the posture of Pang Gongo walking away looked slightly strange, like he was hobbling. In fact, he had not revealed any single flaw and didn't give Qin Mu any chance to attack. The most terrifying point was that Pang Gongo's hobbling hadn't too severe, which meant that his attainments and cultivation were extremely high. Chancellor Ba Shan walked over in quick steps, coming to Qin Mu's side. He saw that Qin Mu still looking at Pang Gongo's back, which had left some time ago. Senior brother Ba Shan, you gave me another thorny problem. Qin Mu let out a shaky breath and looked at Chancellor Ba Shan before saying solemnly, this Pang Gongo is one of the strongest existences among the ones I've met of the same generation. He's even stronger than Daozi Lin Xian. If he's not that old monster that has reincarnated 18 times, this person must be an overlord body as me. Chancellor Ba Shan had an unpleasant look. That's why you killed 2 envoys. Qin Mu was stunned and mumbled, you didn't say I can't kill anyone. What's more, didn't we already kill numerous great shamans from Roland's Golden Palace? Killing only 2 this time is considered their steal. Chancellor Ba Shan laughed from anger. How is that the same? When I brought you and the princess to Block Gate the previous time, I used my identity as Marshal Khan, which is unrelated to Eternal Peace Empire. This time, since they are envoys, they represent Barbarian DI Empire. Killing 2 envoys from Barbarian DI Empire means you're slapping the face of Barbarian DI Empire. How can they take it lying down? Qin Mu said honestly, you also didn't say. I've already killed them and I can't revive them now. Chancellor Ba Shan had a splitting headache and let out a shaky breath as well. Now you wait for the Crown Prince to summon you. The Crown Prince has most likely heard about this matter by now, will definitely have a worse headache than me. You are the Devil Cult Master of Heavenly Devil Cult and an official who has done meritorious service. Even the position of the Crown Prince was fought for him by you, so he can't scold or beat you, and also. His expression turned grave as he said solemnly, if Pang Gongo is that old monster, you must be careful tonight. If that old monster knows your name, he can cast a spell to kill you. After you meet the Crown Prince, I'll go to your room tonight. Qin Mu nodded. He indeed couldn't lower his guard against an existence that even Butcher had to hide his name from. As Chancellor Ba Shan had expected, Crown Prince Ling Yushu found Qin Mu after noon. What was different from what Chancellor Ba Shan had expected was that Ling Yushu had not summoned Qin Mu, but instead came to Imperial College and met Qin Mu personally. For your highness to visit personally, I'm in reverence, Qin Mu greeted. Ling Yushu took a glance at him and sighed. I don't see any signs of reverence from you, on the contrary, you look quite composed. Cult Master Qin, this incident today is really giving me a headache. I thought for the whole afternoon, yet I still can't think of an explanation for it. You are always the one that's full of ideas, teach me how to give an explanation. Qin Mu smiled. That's simple. Your Highness can write a letter to Khan Rwandi and say that the two envoys of barbarian DI Empire didn't listen to civilized teachings and their wild natures were hard to tame. They even dared to make a move to kill people in a supreme sacred ground like Imperial College, trying to harm the life of the Palace Grandee. This Palace Grandee is also Cult Master Qin of the #1 sacred ground of the Devil Path in Eternal Peace Empire. Cult Master Qin was angered, so he had killed those two envoys. Your Highness can also say Cult Master Qin's raging temper is hard to quell, so Khan Rwandi must offer gifts as apology, otherwise there would be unthinkable consequences. Ling Yushu was dumbfounded. After a moment, he let out a shaky breath and sighed. All right, I'll write it this way. If Khan Rwandi is angered and launch his army on us, you shall go to the front line for me and rush forward with your head. Qin Mu's face blackened. Ling Yushu smiled. Heavenly Devil Cult Master also knows how to be scared. All right, let's not talk about this, Cult Master. I feel there's no point in you staying in this Imperial College all the time. There are close to 500 foreign envoys in Imperial College, and if you get excited and kill a few more of them one day, how will I be able to supervise the Empire? I would have my hands full just trying to clean up your messes by writing letters to the emperors of the other countries every day. Qin Mu said resentfully, I don't kill frequently. Isn't there a reason for this incident? Ling Yushu smiled and said, you're a divine arts practitioner now and your abilities are high. Father appointed you as the Palace Grandee and gave you an honorary title without actual power. How about this? Let me give you an actual position. Father and Imperial Preceptor have already woken up, and after a few days, I won't be required to handle the politics and will definitely have to go out to send disaster relief. You can follow me. Going out on this journey, I will need to bring some officials from Ministry of Works and some scholars from Imperial College. He was truly not at ease with leaving Qin Mu here, as he reckoned he would make trouble out of nothing again, so why shouldn't he bring him around? Qin Mu pondered it for a moment and realized that there was indeed nothing for him to do if he stayed at Imperial College. He couldn't fight or kill, and there were too many restrictions to his liking, so why should he not follow this crown prince for a walk? They were walking side by side when Ling Yushu suddenly asked, I've heard my sister slept at your place last night. Qin Mu quivered and said in a firm face, Your Highness, there's definitely nothing of the sort that has happened. Don't listen to the slanders of others and spoil the clean reputation of the princess and me. Ling Yushu's gaze fell on his face and saw his sincere expression. The crown prince then breathed a sigh of relief. I believe you. All right, I'll help you settle this incident of killing the envoys and write a letter to Khan Rwandi with a thick skin. You should get ready now, you'll leave the capital with me in a few days' time. Qin Mu saw him off and Chancellor Ba Shan walked over while saying secretively, I overheard the crown prince saying that 6th Princess Ling Yushu slept over at your place the last night. Come to think of it, I had indeed seen the 6th princess and 2 palace maids carrying lanterns down the mountain this morning, did you too? Qin Mu's head started to ache, and he said firmly, nothing of the sort. Senior brother, it's because of this big mouth of yours that Grandpa Butcher always runs when he sees you, not daring to reunite with you. You should exercise some restraint and not speak on hearsay. Chancellor Ba Shan muttered, I was just curious, don't worry, I'm the most tight-lipped. I'm not like Duke Wei, that impoverished man who shouts everywhere with that voice of his. If Pang Gongo is the old monster, you will be in danger tonight. Let us share a room tonight so we can look after each other. Try to be clever when sleeping tonight, don't be too deep asleep. That night Chancellor Ba Shan's snores were like thunder as he slept on a mat laid down on the ground. Qin Mu's bed trembled from the sound, and his body was too numb from the shakes for him to fall asleep. Nothing strange happened for the longest time, until an hour or two after midnight. A chill wind suddenly came blowing over and blew open the 2 window lattices. Qin Mu immediately sat up and looked out the window. Chancellor Ba Shan's snores were deafening and he didn't wake up even when the chill wind blew into the room. Strange chanting came from outside, but the voice was not clear. Qin Mu couldn't tell whether it was light or heavy, slow or fast. Despite that, he immediately used Heavenly Devil creation technique to seal his souls and spirits before arousing his vital qi. Junior Protector sword which was hanging at the head of his bed came out of its sheath, and the silver sword light lit up the room. There was a white figure floating to and fro outside the window, and Junior Protector sword hummed and trembled. Sword lights shot out in a flash, and a few human heads outside the window fell to the ground. Harming people with shaman spells might sound bizarre, but those spells were nothing more than attacks targeted at the soul or the corporeal body. Even though Qin Mu wasn't too old, he knew the reason behind the bizarre occurrences. Spells that were targeted at the corporeal body required one to use secret techniques to enter the room and kill the person. Meanwhile, there were much more unimaginable methods that were targeted at the souls, for example, shaman poison. It could be used to poison the enemy's souls, and it was colorless, odorless, formless, and traceless, making it extremely hard for people to guard against it. Another example would be worshipping the soul using a straw doll. One would write the other person's date of birth and 8 characters of a horoscope on a doll and worship it for 10 days, worshipping away a soul or spirit each day. The 7 spirits would leave in 7 days and the 3 souls would come after. There was also victory loathing technique, harming the soul to harm the body. By using needles or sharp blades to harm the soul, the shaman could make use of the connections between the soul and the corporeal body to harm the corporeal body by harming the soul. For example, by pricking the limbs of the soul, the enemy's corporeal body would also be pricked. If the heart of the brows was pricked, the mind would be messed up, and such. Being able to kill people by knowing their name was indeed slightly hard to imagine, but it shouldn't be much different from these 2 methods. Qin Mu sealing his souls and spirits while hanging Junior Protector sword at the head of his bed was to guard against these 2 methods. Suddenly, a weird laughter sounded, and Qin Mu looked over in a hurry. He saw numerous small humans climbing in through the window and jumping onto the ground. They wielded knives, axes, military forks, and rode small horses in a formation, looking like a huge army with several hundred men. This small human army swarmed forward and stood on Chancellor Ba Shan's chest, yet Chancellor Ba Shan didn't wake up, continuing to snore like thunder. The small human in the lead wielded a long spear and rode a steed on Chancellor Ba Shan's nose. He pointed his spear at Qin Mu, who had already sat up, and his eyes were filled with a glow of excitement. With an incomprehensible shout, the other small humans went toward Qin Mu like a flood. The small humans were abnormally excited and kept shouting incomprehensibly as they waved their weapons with a fierce demeanor. Yet even though there were several hundred of them, Qin Mu felt that he could flatten all of them with 2 or 3 steps. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This was the reason why Butcher didn't dare to use his real name. Qin Mu pulled out his sword, but just as the sword lights were about to burst forth to sweep away all these small humans, he suddenly heard someone calling his name. This voice came in with the chill wind, and the words were dragged out, as if the person was quite far away. Qin Mu didn't say a word, but that voice was closing in on him rapidly. When other people called your name, even if you did not reply, there would be an uncontrollable reaction in your heart, and that voice had used this reaction to sense his location. So just as the sword lights in Qin Mu's hand were about to slaughter the small army, he suddenly felt a chill invading the heart of his brows. His hand up was about to pull out the sword and his soul froze in place. When his soul was frozen, his body did the same, and the sword lights naturally extinguished. The small humans danced around in joy and climbed onto his body, tunneling into him through his mouth, ears, and nose. The next moment, Qin Mu saw these small humans carrying him away in a sprint. What they were carrying wasn't his corporeal body. They had tunneled inside him to carry away his soul. These small humans had actually run into his body and tied up his soul tightly, then brought it out above their heads. Qin Mu didn't know what they were saying as they squealed to one another before running away with him. Qin Mu felt that he was unable to move while the sceneries in front of his eyes flickered before turning pitch black. All the lights in the surroundings vanished and only the darkness remained. He could see bubbles of light coming into existence under his body, and then noticed that he was lying on a sacrificial altar. The small humans had placed him down and were looking up at the sky. The one in the lead squeaked at the darkness and the sacrificial altar slowly rose up. Looking around, Qin Mu could see huge faces that were like the faces of puppets blocking his 4 sides. The faces of these wooden puppets were humongous and revealed an expression that was a smile yet not a smile, a cry yet not a cry. After that, the sacrificial altar trembled and rose up once again. A huge palm lifted it up along with the 4 wooden puppets, and Qin Mu immediately saw a blazing flame of light in the darkness. It was a huge eye which was much larger than the faces of the wooden puppets. Then, more and more huge eyes lighted up the darkness as they floated in the sky, looking extremely strange. Victory loathing spell? When Qin Mu saw this sight, his heart trembled slightly. Pang Gongo must have used victory loathing spell to make use of the small humans to invade him, trapping the souls and spirits that were sealed in his body on such a sacrificial altar. This method was very strange. When he heard the voice, it found its way over even if he didn't answer. That voice then transformed into a sacrificial altar in his body, and even though his souls and spirits had been sealed in his body, it wasn't enough. However, his souls and spirits should still be in his body, and as long as they were in his body, he had the chance to make a comeback. No matter what shaman spell you used, you will need to rely on your own magic power. In my body, your magic power will never surpass mine. You can forget about killing me. Qin Mu flipped his body up and shouted, "Sword, come." Suddenly, a sword pellet came flying over through the darkness and floated in front of him. This sword pellet was the one Mute had given him when he had gone back to the village for New Year. Qin Mu had once used this sword pellet to guide out the remnant of the god's divine art out of Imperial Preceptor's body, which resulted in the sword pellet being obliterated quite a bit and becoming smaller. Sword lights burst from the sword pellet and swept through the small humans in all directions, causing them to suffer a crushing defeat. The small humans had their chests and bellies split by Qin Mu, but they were not yet dead. Their broken limbs crawled here and there to reassemble themselves before continuing to attack Qin Mu. Meanwhile, the faces of the wooden puppets around the sacrificial altar revealed a strange smile as they raised their arms stiffly to smash towards him who was in the center of the sacrificial altar, causing sparks to fly in all directions. Qin Mu executed the sword pellet to contend against the strange wooden puppets and felt they possessed unusual strength. He was almost unable to withstand their blows. Some of the small humans were smashed by the wooden puppets and turned into a paper-like state, but in the next instant, they swelled back up as if they had been pumped with air and continued swinging their swords at Qin Mu. At this moment, the weird eyes in the darkness blazed furiously and beams of fire came shooting over in all directions. Qin Mu gritted his teeth to withstand the attacks, his soul on the verge of dispersing from all the attacks. The small humans, wooden puppets, and weird eyes seemed to be able to revive and come at him endlessly. There was no end to killing them, and they just kept attacking him, not knowing fatigue. Just as Qin Mu was about to fall into despair from exhaustion, he became furious. Is senior brother Ba Shan still sleeping? At this moment, the crows of the roosters rang out in the air, and he could faintly hear the night watchman banging the gong to signal the 5th of the 5 night watch periods. Then, Qin Mu heard Chancellor Ba Shan's yawn from seemingly far away. I waited the whole night, yet Pang Gongo never came to visit personally, truly disappointing. That brat is really careful and didn't cast any spells personally to kill junior brother Qin, but had another great shaman make his move. Qin Mu was slightly stunned. Senior brother Ba Shan knew I was trapped. A pity only a great shaman of 7 stars realm took the bait. Qin Mu heard Chancellor Ba Shan pulling out his knife, and the tyrant knife was unsheathed. The golden knife adorned in white jade, with rays piercing into the night through the window. Man of 50 years yet nothing made, carrying knife in 8 wilderness all alone. Along with the song, a blinding light split apart the darkness and came down from the sky, slashing onto the sacrificial altar ruthlessly. The heaven and earth instantly rumbled before starting to crumble and disintegrate. This knife seemed to have split the world in 2 places that gradually opened up towards the left and right. These were Qin Mu's eyes which were gradually opening, but what was strange was that he felt the eyelids of his eyes open towards the left and the right. This is the victory loathing spell of Roland's Golden Palace which I just undid for you. This kind of victory loathing spell turns your eyeballs half upside down, so you are looking to your left and right. Chancellor Ba Shan appeared to Qin Mu to be standing on the wall. Mobilize the muscles in your eyes and slowly adjust your eyeballs back to normal. Qin Mu followed his instructions. After some time, his eyeballs finally returned to normal and he immediately said, "Senior brother, I got trapped." Chancellor Ba Shan nodded and pointed forward. "This is what trapped you." Qin Mu lowered his head and was slightly stunned. He saw that the sacrificial altar that had trapped him wasn't the real thing but a silver plate which had 4 wooden puppets that were the size of a palm around it. The small humans that had lifted him up were soybeans, and the horses under them were bean sprouts. Meanwhile, the eyes floating in the sky had been the eyes of huge spiders and not weird eyes that had been arranged in a line. Under the plate was a weasel. The spider and the weasel were both killed with a knife and died an unnatural death. I thought it would be Pang Gongo making a move and not some great shaman of 7 stars realm. Chancellor Ba Shan shook his head. I reckon Pang Gongo didn't make a move but sent a great shaman of 7 stars realm instead because he was worried I would be by your side. He's really careful. Qin Mu looked out the window and saw that the heads he had severed using the sword lights were just straw men that were covered in white cloth. He asked, "Senior brother, what happened to the great shaman of 7 stars realm?" "He's dead," Chancellor Ba Shan answered. "He cast his spell in his dream to harm you with victory loathing technique and my knife broke his spell. My knife then entered his dream through his spell and cut him down in his sleep. In other words, he passed away very peacefully." Qin Mu was skeptical and asked, "Knife skills can be cultivated to such a level?" Chancellor Ba Shan smiled. "Teacher Heaven Knife's knife skills can be called a legend. He can cut open the void, but I can't." When morning came, everyone in Imperial College was discussing how another envoy in barbarian Di Empire had died. It was said he died suddenly on the 5th of the 5 night watch periods with blood flowing out of all his orifices. He had died extremely miserably and even screamed 3 times before falling over. Qin Mu criticized in his heart, didn't senior brother Ba Shan say he had passed away peacefully? When afternoon came, a shaman came forth and bowed. "Prince invites cult master Qin to a banquet. Pang Gongo ordered a great shaman to cast a spell to take my life yesterday and then dares to invite me to a banquet today." Qin Mu was slightly stunned. Does he think as an equivalent sacred ground, Roland's Golden Palace can pressure heavenly devil cult? Or does he have other plans? Chancellor Ba Shan walked over and asked, "Do you need me to follow you?" Qin Mu shook his head. "No need for that. If Pang Gongo dared to kill me in the open, he wouldn't have used shaman spells to kill me yesterday. I will meet him alone." Jade Fragrance Floor was the largest restaurant in the whole capital, using the layout of gardens. With a hall and a courtyard, there were rock gardens, flowing waters, fountains, and even beautiful women dancing and singing. Each courtyard was separated from the others and was very elegant and calm. The people coming here to eat and drink weren't here for the food but to have a place to chat. Before the disaster, the business here had been flourishing and even high officials and noble people had to book in advance. However, after the natural disaster broke out, the emperor had sent disaster relief personally and the high officials and noble people in the capital city also had to donate, so the business of Jade Fragrance Floor became slack. It was expected that after the effects of the natural disaster faded, the business of this restaurant would definitely flourish again. In green bamboo garden of Jade Fragrance Floor, Pang Gongo welcomed Qin Mu and said, "Cult Master Qin, my retainers have offended you and now that they are dead, let us bury the hatchet with their deaths. May Cult Master be magnanimous enough to forgive us." Qin Mu walked into green bamboo garden and looked around. "Prince is courteous." This courtyard was called Green Bamboo Garden and entering through a door with the shape of a full moon, there were thin bamboos as shade covering both sides of the path. He could hear the babbling of running water and after 2 turns, he saw clear water flowing down from a rock garden filled with oddly shaped rocks. Even though it was a small stream, it had the feeling of a waterfall crashing down onto the rocks at a great speed. This flowing water from the waterfall flowed into a jade vase held in the hand of a bodhisattva statue. That jade vase was tilted forward, letting the water flow out and land into the pond in the south after circulating 1 round in the vase. Qin Mu took a look and saw some sandy mounds in the southern pond. They were islands scattered about like stars in the sky, which was very interesting. Bodhisattva of Compassion of the South Sea was writing on the pond, and the words were vast and deep like the sea. The bodhisattva was sculpted with the rock garden, and some small spells must have been used to let the water flow continuously. Even though the pond wasn't big, everything was done to the smallest detail. Looking at it up close, there was a feeling of standing in the sky above the South Sea and overlooking everything below. Cult Master Qin, please. Pang Gongo raised his hand and invited Qin Mu to walk through the corridor. They came to a private room beside the pond. Its windows were already open, so he could see the scenery of the garden by sitting near the window. There were two great shamans in yellow standing at the left and right side of the door without any expressions. Pang Gongo waved his hand and said, "Both of you can fall back, tell them to serve the dishes and wine." The two great shamans of Roland's Golden Palace walked out of the room, and after a moment, a waitress came to serve the dishes and wine. A few more maidens with alluring figures then came to the courtyard wearing outfits of different tribes. They played the blowing horn and yangqin while beating instruments like the damaru, giving off a different kind of flavor to the music. "It wasn't my idea to send someone to kill you yesterday night." Pang Gongo looked deeply into Qin Mu's eyes. "I don't need to borrow the hands of others to kill people. What happened yesterday was merely my retainer seeing you kill too many disciples of Roland's Golden Palace and becoming indignant, which was why he entered his dream to cast spells to harm you." Qin Mu couldn't help feeling astonished when he heard him bringing this up. He had originally expected Pang Gongo to avoid this topic, so he was surprised when the other decided to clear things up right after they were seated. "I see." Qin Mu smiled. "Luckily I'm fine and he's already dead. I believe that Little Prince has nothing to do with this matter." Pang Gongo shook his head. "You know nothing. I knew he was going to kill you, but I didn't stop him. Does Cult Master Qin want to know the reason why?" Qin Mu was slightly astonished and said modestly, "Little Prince is truly surprising, I'd like to hear the details." Pang Gongo poured wine for him and said, "The reason why I didn't stop him was because I knew you would definitely let Chancellor Ba Shan stay in your room to guard against me casting spells in the night to kill you. He couldn't kill you, but he could delay you." Qin Mu raised his eyebrows and picked up his wine cup. The two of them toasted each other and drank the wine. Pang Gongo then continued, "You and I broke the wall at the same time and entered Six Directions realm. I didn't agree to your challenge at that time because I could see your battle power was indeed extraordinary, and I wasn't 100% confident that I could defeat you. However, everything has changed after this one day. 1 day's time, I just needed 1 day's time." He revealed a smile. The victory and defeat in a battle between experts can be decided with just 1 day's time. You had to meet the Crown Prince in the afternoon, so you had no time to strengthen your Six Directions realm, to discover the marvel of Six Directions realm. At night, you had to guard against the shaman spells from that retainer of mine and didn't have the time research Six Directions realm. On the other hand, I had a whole day's time to strengthen my Six Directions and raise my cultivation. Just 1 day's time is enough to turn your odds of victory to 0. Qin Mu was once again astonished and examined the other's face. He saw that it still had a soft and immature air to it, but his gaze was deep, having a kind of depth that a youth shouldn't have. He exclaimed in admiration, "The Little Prince of the Prairie is truly extraordinary, no wonder even Heaven Knife is afraid of you. You are only 14 years old now, right?" Pang Gongo poured wine for him once again and said, 13 years old. The people of the prairie brave the wind and sun, so our bodies are more rugged, making us look older. 13 years old is my age in this lifetime. If Cult Master is asking about the age of my soul, I'm already 11,000 years old." Qin Mu laughed loudly. "Little Prince is making me more and more astonished. I didn't expect you to say this out so easily." "I have no need to hide it from you," Pang Gongo said. "Cult Master Qin is also extremely admirable. You are the disciple of Heaven Knife, right? To have this kind of cultivation at such a young age makes me exclaim endlessly in admiration. If it was on the day when we had broken into Six Directions realm, I would have only been 80% confident in defeating you in a match." "Oh." Qin Mu smiled and didn't say a word as he fiddled around with his wine cup. Pang Gongo said firmly, "Counting this lifetime, I have already lived through 19 lifetimes. In my long life, I met countless heroes with none to compare with at that time and saw numerous lives and deaths, sorrows and happiness. Sometimes, I feel like I'm a reef standing upright in the passage of time while countless peerless talents flow by hurriedly like rushing waves, and even exceptional emperors of various eras are merely passing waves that I've paid no attention to. Even Heaven Knife, who had raised his knives at heaven, was merely a passing traveler hurrying by. I remember that in my 6th lifetime, I had felt that my path, skills, and divine arts were no longer able to go another step further, so I had entered the Central Plains to become a member of Tao Sect, to learn Pre-Celestial Supreme Mystery Technique and Tao Sword. At that time, Tao Master of Tao Sect held high expectation for me and allowed me to become Daozi. He even expected me to become Tao Master and lead Tao Sect. The corners of Qin Mu's eyes twitched. This old monster had entered Tao Sect once and even became Daozi? Tao Sect's ultimate arts, Pre-Celestial Supreme Mystery Technique and 14 writings of Tao Sword were both learned by him. Tao Sword was very hard to comprehend. In that lifetime, I learned up to the 13th sword, but I could never comprehend the 14th sword from the beginning to the end. Pang Gongo sighed ruefully. Tao Sword was simply too difficult, so even if I had the power of Pre-Celestial Supreme Mystery Technique, it was too difficult to comprehend it completely. It required one to have a terrifying comprehension of algebra. Until I died of old age, I still didn't manage to learn the 14th sword. When I started my 7th lifetime, I entered Tao Sect again, but I still didn't manage to learn the 14th sword. I only succeeded in cultivating half of that sword move. When it came to the 8th lifetime, I entered Great Thunderclap Monastery. Qin Mu's heart trembled violently, and he looked into the other's eyes deeply. You felt that Tao Sword could no longer allow you to break through SP. You went to Great Thunderclap Monastery to learn Rulai's Mahayana Sutra. Wrong, Pang Gongo said solemnly. I went there to comprehend Buddhism. Great Thunderclap Monastery's Dharma has an extremely high comprehension on one's nature, and Rulai's Mahayana Sutra gathered Mahayana Buddhists that cultivated their nature, so I naturally had to learn it. I began from a small monk, reading through all the Buddhist scriptures of Great Thunderclap Monastery, comprehending all of them before learning Rulai's Mahayana Sutra. Qin Mu asked, the Rulai of that generation should have also held high expectations for you, right? He said my comprehension was the best in the world in that era and my attainments in Buddhism even surpassed his. I was said to have unhindered eloquence. I cultivated all 20 heavens of Rulai's Mahayana Sutra, but I still left Great Thunderclap Monastery in the end. The Buddhism of Great Thunderclap Monastery couldn't allow me to break through the final realm. In my next lifetime, I reincarnated into a woman and went to Passion Parting Palace. Another lifetime passed by, and I went to Little Jade Capital. I stayed there for a few lifetimes, only then did I manage to learn all of the ultimate arts there. It's indeed the sacred ground that's above the 3 big sacred grounds. He sighed ruefully as he seemed to reminisce about the days in Little Jade Capital. He paused for a moment. Then I went to Heavenly Saint Cult. The light in Qin Mu's eyes flickered, and he asked, Heavenly Saint Cult? You learned great educational Heavenly Devil scriptures? What did you comprehend? Pang Gongo revealed a smile and said, Great educational Heavenly Devil scriptures are very strong, but compared to Rulai's Mahayana Sutra and Tao Sword, they are slightly inferior. When I planned to leave, I heard about the unity technique of great educational Heavenly Devil scriptures which could only be passed down from cult master to cult master. I wanted to receive it very much, so I remained in Heavenly Saint Cult. It's a pity that the Heavenly Devil cult master of that generation was very strong and his disciple was very strong as well. This disciple was acclaimed as the saint that appears once every 500 years. I lost to him and missed the opportunity to become the cult master. Qin Mu let out a sigh of relief, and Pang Gongo continued, That's why I betrayed Heavenly Devil cult and brought the experts of Tao Sect and gathered the righteous practitioners of the righteous path to attack Heavenly Saint cult, killing this saint that appears once every 500 years. The wine in Qin Mu's wine cup trembled and one drop landed on the table. That saint was indeed rare to find, and he fought Tao Master to death while managing to injure me severely after I had launched a sneak attack on him. However, he was still exhausted to death by us using countless practitioners of the righteous path. Pang Gongo said leisurely. Before he died, he passed on the position of the cult master and unity technique to Heavenly King Qin of that time. Even though I was severely injured, how could I let everything go to waste after thinking I could conquer Heavenly Saint cult with one more step? Therefore, I continued to lead everyone to attack, yet that cult master Qin imparted unity technique to the saintess before leading the cult followers to fight to the death with me. I had no choice but to retreat back to the prairie with my injuries. He sighed ruefully. After that, I heard that cult master Qin died in Jade Ripple Pool. The saintess succeeded as the cult master and slaughtered so many practitioners of Tao sect and the righteous paths that they were left terrified. In the end, she exhausted her powers and died after passing down the position. How does Heavenly Saint cult refer to these three cult masters? Qin Mu said with an apathetic face, 3 kings. 3 kings? Pang Gongo thought about it, then praised, they are indeed worthy to be called 3 kings. Now you should know the relationship between me and Heavenly Saint cult, right? You should also know where my 80% confidence had come from, right? However, that was a day ago. Facing you now, I'm 100% confident in my victory. You don't even have a 10% chance of winning. Qin Mu rose and stretched his body. Let's go, I feel like killing people now. Pang Gongo rose and the two of them walked out side by side. Pang Gongo turned back to instruct the 2 great shamans, leave the dishes here, then warm them up, I'll be back soon. This video will end here.